A recent report about Venezuelan dictator Maduro may have kept Xi Jinping awake at night. It is said that the former president reportedly called for help when at the Brooklyn Metropolitan Detention Center in New York, yelling, "I'm the president of Venezuela. Tell my country that I've been kidnapped. Tell my country that we are being mistreated here." However, this once unassailable dictator seems still trapped in the illusion of power. He likely cannot believe that when U.S. Special Forces, with thunderous force, pulled him out of a hole and stuffed him into a plane bound for New York, the people of Venezuela didn't mourn, but instead celebrated with firecrackers filled with tears of joy. For a population suffering from hunger and torture, this wasn't a kidnapping, but rather a long overdue justice. Maduro's midnight cries in New York and Khamenei's getting bombed in Tehran, these two events, within less than 2 months, have had a significant impact on Xi Jinping. What weighs most heavily on his mind every day is how did the US military know everything about Maduro's movements, food, safe house coordinates, and even his pets? Why did US Delta Force precisely bring flamethrowers during the operation, clearly intending to break his shell open? How did Khamenei get bombed in the middle of a high-level meeting? The answer is clear. The dictator's inner circle had already become riddled with holes. The US intelligence network had infiltrated every corner of these regimes. It's this fear of not even trusting his own shadow that led Xi Jinping to make an extremely rare, menacing remark during this year's 2 sessions. At a meeting within the military delegation, he spoke of the army being armed with guns, and that there must never be anyone with a divided heart. Xi's inner monologue, translated plainly, is, "I don't care about the people. My biggest fear is a military rebellion. That this weapon may one day turn against me." The phrase, "no divided loyalty to the party," essentially means no divided loyalty to me, Xi Jinping. However, this behavior reveals his desperation. There are signs that despite Xi Jinping's continuous and intense purging of the military's top ranks, resistance within the military is not willing to give up and is organizing a new round of counterattacks, with the threat now closing in on him. Recently, it was leaked that a proposal drafted collectively by military and armed police representatives was submitted to the Communist Party authorities. The proposal demands a thorough investigation into the whereabouts of Zhang Youxia and Liu Zhenli, and whether Zhang Youxia died from illness, as well as an end to the purging and restructuring of the military commission. On March 7, 2026, Xi Jinping attended the full meeting of the Chinese military and armed police representatives. Political commentator Lao Deng reported on his program that Xi publicly stated that former Central Military Commission Vice Chairman Zhang Youxia had died of illness due to a heart attack during the investigation. Lao Deng also revealed that the military and armed police delegation secretly coordinated and collectively drafted a proposal which was submitted to the conference secretariat after an internal discussion on March 8. The proposal first highlights the strong reaction among military representatives to Xi's statement about Zhang Youxia's death during the investigation. It also notes that the arrests of Zhang Youxia and Liu Zhenli lacked formal notification and that proper procedures were not followed. The unexpected announcement of Zhang's death without medical records, a body handover, or notification to the family raised suspicions. The proposal emphasized that all military representatives agreed that the issue needed to be thoroughly investigated and that a clear explanation should be provided to all officers. Secondly, the proposal questioned the accusations against Zhang and Liu. It states that they don't believe Zhang and Liu engaged in anti-party or corrupt activities, nor do they believe the accusations that they leaked military secrets to the US, undermined Xi Jinping, or attempted a military coup, as these claims lack factual evidence. The proposal further pointed out that as members of the Politburo and the Central Military Commission, the handling of Zhang and Liu's cases must have gone through collective discussions by the Politburo, the legal procedures of the National People's Congress, and an investigation led by the Military Commission's Discipline Inspection Commission. However, in reality, they were arrested by the Ministry of Public Security and the Special Service Bureau, detained in non-military locations, denied family visits, and no procedures were followed. This approach of arresting first and following procedures later severely violated so-called regulations and the national defense law, and it has caused unrest within the military, undermining the stability of the forces. The proposal concluded that Zhang and Liu were victims of Xi Jinping's military purge. In recent years, Xi, under the guise of anti-corruption, has repeatedly purged and caused turmoil in the military leadership. The fall of Zhang and Liu reflects the complexity of internal struggles within the Communist Party. It also points out that this is a way of eliminating political opponents under the guise of anti-corruption and consolidating personal power, which has severely damaged the balance within the military and weakened its combat effectiveness. The proposal raised key recommendations. First, to immediately investigate the truth behind the whereabouts of Zhang Youxia and Liu Zhenli. A high-level investigative team should be formed jointly by the Discipline Inspection Commission, the National Supervisory Commission, and the Military Commission's Discipline Inspection Commission to publicly review medical records and details of their detention. It is urgent to confirm whether Zhang Youxia truly passed away due to illness and the current condition of Liu Zhenli. The investigation results must be reported to the entire Chinese military to avoid any disruption in morale. Second, to end the ongoing disruptive purges within the military, it is suggested that the central government carefully handle military cases, halt unwarranted investigations, and restore normal military training, preparedness, and reform order. Third, to restructure the Central Military Commission, the proposal emphasizes that the military leadership system must uphold collective leadership and decisions made through meetings. It suggests adjusting the personnel composition of the military commission, reducing interference from non-professional military personnel and non-military personnel, ensuring that key positions such as vice chairman and committee members are filled by professional military officers with long military careers. It also calls for the prohibition of any individual or their family members from taking over the duties of the military commission to avoid privatization of the military. The proposal also includes a pointed remark aimed at Xi Jinping. The system of the military commission chairman's responsibility is a collective responsibility system, not a dictatorship by one person, suggesting a return to so-called intra-party democracy. Fourth, it recommends that the Communist Party return to the so-called path of reform and opening up to avoid isolation and power centralization. The proposal also mentions that if these recommendations are not taken seriously and implemented, the military will become the so-called weapon for maintaining reform and opening up. The informant noted that, with a few exceptions, over 200 military representatives from the delegation signed the proposal. The ones who didn't sign include Zhang Shenming, the vice chairman, and the Central Military Commission. It is said that after the downfall of Zhang Youxia and Liu Zhenli, Zhang Shengmin became a key figure supporting the high-ranking leadership within the military and has had more public appearances. It is said that each time he appears, he reaffirms his loyalty to Xi Jinping, but the outside world believes that Xi may not fully trust Zhang Shengmin, and Zhang may not be entirely loyal to Xi. Recent events have placed significant pressure on Xi Jinping, as he faces multiple challenges. The capture of former Venezuelan President Maduro by U.S. forces in early 2026, along with the death of Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei in the U.S.-Israeli airstrike, have raised concerns about China's foreign relations. Additionally, there are growing signs of discontent and instability within the Chinese military, which further complicates Xi's position. Amidst these developments, the Trump administration has begun preparing its next steps regarding its relationship with the Communist Party, signaling continued tensions in U.S.-China relations. These unfolding events underscore the geopolitical challenges that Xi Jinping must navigate on a daily basis. Recently, President Trump made an unusual request for China to send warships to participate in the escort mission in the Strait of Hormuz, which was rejected by Beijing. This move has drawn significant attention from the strategic community. Analysts believe that China's refusal to escort is not just a military setback, but also stems from Beijing's fear that its behind-the-scenes role in Iran might be fully exposed under the transparency of a joint escort mission. Operation Epic Fury in the Persian Gulf has essentially become the front line of the ultimate showdown between the US and China. U.S. National Economic Council officials have clearly stated that stabilizing the oil market is in the shared interest of both the U.S. and China. U.S. military actions in Iran have objectively protected energy transportation security. Trump even sarcastically hoped that Beijing would express gratitude for this. However, hidden behind this invitation is a deadly strategic implication. If the Communist Party refuses to act but still manages to export oil from the chaotic war zone, it would essentially confirm to the world its close ties with the Iranian regime, which is labeled as a terrorist regime. Observers have analyzed that Trump's move carries three layers of meaning. First, it is extreme international pressure on China. Second, it forces China to expose its stance on supporting Iran. And third, it lays ample legal grounds for the eventual total blockade of China's energy supply. U.S. actions in Venezuela and the Middle East have raised questions about the implications for China's energy security and economic strategy. Analysts have noted that recent disruptions to key energy suppliers, including Venezuela and Iran, may test China's resilience on external energy sources. Even as Beijing works to diversify imports and strengthen domestic production, these developments have coincided with fluctuations in global oil markets and concerns about the security of critical shipping routes, such as the Strait of Hormuz, through which a significant portion of China's oil and liquefied natural gas imports transit. At the same time, China continues to be a major player in global manufacturing and supply chains, but reliance on foreign energy sources presents strategic challenges. While China has sought to increase energy self-sufficiency, a continued dependence on imported oil and gas means that disruptions abroad can have implications for domestic economic activity. Regarding rare earth elements, global supply chain discussions have highlighted their importance for advanced technologies and note that control over critical minerals and related supply chains remain a point of competition between major economies. However, there is ongoing engagement between the United States and China on issues related to rare earths and supply chain resilience, reflecting broader economic interdependence and strategic negotiations. Meanwhile, China's economy is facing pressures from multiple fronts, including a slowdown in the real estate sector and elevated youth unemployment, factors that are frequently discussed by economists as part of broader assessments of China's growth prospects. Chinese state media has recently frequently used the term shifting the crisis eastward, complaining that the US and Israeli military strikes on Iran will lead to global oil price hikes, even implying that China will bear all the consequences. This anxiety reflects Beijing's realization of the truth. Every missile launched by the US military in the Persian Gulf ultimately aims at China's fate. The end of this frontline battle signals the imminent full-scale confrontation between Beijing and the Western forces. Of course, for the Communist Party leadership and the elite, what they fear even more is the ultimate method that will come from the US military once all economic and diplomatic options have been exhausted. Precise strikes and targeted eliminations. The most terrifying part for them is that this tactic, which directly targets the perpetrators while sparing the innocent, is rapidly becoming more feasible for implementation in mainland China. On March 13th, the U.S. State Department's Rewards for Justice program issued an arrest warrant. At the top of the list is Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. Following him are figures such as the Deputy Chief of Staff of the Supreme Leader's Office, the Secretary of the National Defense Committee, military advisors, the Ministry of the Interior, and the Commander of the Revolutionary Guard, among others. The U.S. government has offered a $10 million reward with one goal in mind: to completely eradicate this organization that uses terrorism as a national policy tool. The Trump administration's message is clear and forceful. Those who harm American citizens and disrupt global order will be pursued by the U.S. military. Previously, the U.S. had designated the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, as a foreign terrorist organization. All property and assets of the IRGC under U.S. jurisdiction have been frozen. What truly has the powerful elites of Zhongnanhai sweating isn't just a $1 million bounty, but rather the downgraded strike launched by Mossad. A new era where every citizen is a guide has officially begun. On March 14, Mossad released a soul-stirring video openly calling on the Iranian people to use their phones to take pictures of besieged militant checkpoints and hideouts and upload them. This declaration instantly ignited the long-oppressed public sentiment in Iran. Countless citizens rode motorcycles through the streets of Tehran, capturing images of every checkpoint and hideout, transmitting the data in real time to the Israeli Defense Forces. The power of this nationwide intelligence network is far more terrifying to dictators than missiles, as it signifies the collapse of the last barrier of fear between the tyranny and the people. This electronic guide battle in the Persian Gulf has significant implications for the people living under CCP control. In the past, there was often talk of waiting for the US military to guide us, a distant hope for change. However, in today's interconnected world, guidance has evolved beyond face-to-face directions. It has become a form of justice that can take place at any time, from any location. In environments where information is suppressed and crimes are hidden, every informed citizen can play a role in exposing wrongdoing. For example, when Xi Jinping visits an area for inspection and incidents of injustice occur in the streets, citizens can document the events by taking photos, recording coordinates, and securely sharing them with the international community. This becomes an effective means of holding power accountable. Each photo that reveals the truth contributes to a broader effort to challenge authoritarianism.